caught him cheating on me with my daughter's live-in nanny. What I did next shocked the both of them. Those words still feel unreal to say. I trusted him with everything, our home, our family, our future. And I trusted her to take care of my child. But nothing could have prepared me for the moment I uncovered the truth. This is my story, and it's one I never thought I'd have to tell. I met him during a time in my life when everything felt uncertain. He was kind, supportive, and made me feel safe in ways I didn't know I needed. We built a life together, full of love and laughter. When our daughter came along, things were challenging, but we promised to face it all as a team. He worked long hours, and I did my part by juggling work and motherhood. There were sleepless nights, times when I barely had time to eat or breathe, but I never complained. I wanted to make our home a happy, safe place for all of us. When we decided to hire a nanny, it felt like the perfect solution. We both agreed it was the best way to ensure our daughter got the attention she needed while we worked hard to provide for her. We found someone who seemed perfect, kind, responsible, and great with kids. Little did I know inviting her into our home would change everything. At first, everything seemed fine. The nanny was wonderful with our daughter. She brought so much energy into the house, always smiling, always attentive. My husband even commented a few times about how lucky we were to have found her. It felt like we had everything under control, like the chaos of balancing work and family was finally manageable. But then, little things started to stand out. Things I tried to ignore because I didn't want to seem paranoid or overthinking. It began with him coming home later than usual. He'd text to say he was working late, but when he walked through the door, he'd smell freshly showered, not sweaty or tired like he normally would after a long day. There were moments when I'd catch him looking at her, just small glances, ones that most people wouldn't notice, but I did. When I asked him about it, he'd laugh it off, telling me I was imagining things. And for a while, I believed him. I wanted to believe him. Then there was the nanny. She was friendly, but started acting a little off. She used to text me updates about my daughter throughout the day, but suddenly, those texts slowed down. Instead, I'd see her phone buzzing during dinner or family time. She'd glance at it, smile, and then quickly tuck it away. One night, I walked into the living room after putting our daughter to bed. My husband and the nanny were there, sitting closer than usual on the couch. He jumped up the moment he saw me, mumbling something about checking emails. She looked nervous, fidgeting with her phone. I remember standing there, frozen, trying to convince myself that I was imagining things, that I was just being insecure. But the doubts only grew. His phone became another red flag. He used to leave it lying around without a care, but now it was glued to his side. When it would buzz, he'd glance at it and quickly swipe the notification away. Once, I asked him why he was being so secretive, and he snapped at me, something he almost never did. The worst moment came one afternoon when I came home earlier than expected. I walked into the house and heard laughter coming from the kitchen, his laughter and hers. I stood in the hallway listening as they joked about something I couldn't hear clearly. The way he laughed with her felt different, more personal, like the way he used to laugh with me. I felt my stomach drop. I tried to shake it off, but I couldn't. The doubts kept piling up, and the person I thought I knew started to feel like a stranger. The house that once felt like a safe haven now felt like it was hiding secrets I wasn't ready to uncover. The day I discovered the truth started like any other. I had been feeling uneasy for weeks, but I kept pushing my doubts aside, telling myself I was overreacting. That morning, my husband kissed me goodbye as he left for work, just like always. The nanny arrived shortly after, cheerful as usual, and went straight to play with my daughter. I went to work, trying to ignore the sinking feeling in my stomach. But later that afternoon, I got a call from my boss telling me I could leave early. I decided to surprise my husband and daughter. Maybe we could all have dinner together and I could push these nagging doubts out of my mind. When I walked through the front door, The house was quiet. Too quiet. I called out for the nanny, but there was no response. I assumed she had taken my daughter out for a walk. I made my way upstairs, thinking nothing of it, until I heard faint voices coming from our bedroom. I froze. My heart started pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I tiptoed closer, and that's when I heard his voice. My husband. He was laughing, but not the casual kind of laugh you'd have with a friend. It was softer, more intimate. Then I heard her voice, the nanny. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My mind raced with excuses. Maybe they were talking about something innocent. Maybe I was misinterpreting. But deep down, I knew. I felt like my legs were going to give out. But I forced myself to keep moving. I pushed the door open, and there they were. He was sitting on the edge of our bed, and she was standing almost not fully clothed, save for the shirt she was wearing. They both froze when they saw me. The color drained from her face, and he jumped up so fast it was like he had been caught in a fire. "What's going on?" I managed to choke out as she started dressing back. My voice was shaking, but I tried to stay calm. They both started stammering excuses. "Oh, we were just..." he began, but I wasn't listening anymore. I walked over, grabbed his phone, and scrolled through his messages, and there it was, proof. Incriminating texts that shattered my world in an instant. I can't stop thinking about last night. I love the way you make me feel. I wish we didn't have to sneak around. I read the messages out loud, my voice breaking with every word. I could barely see through my tears. He tried to grab the phone from me, but I stepped back, clutching it like it was the only thing keeping me upright. "How could you do this?" I whispered. My hands were trembling so badly I thought I might drop the phone. I turned to her, and all she could do was look down at the floor. She didn't even try to deny it. "I trusted you," I said, my voice growing louder. "I let you into my home. I let you take care of my daughter." My husband tried to speak, but I cut him off. "Don't you dare try to explain this to me. There's nothing you can say that will make this okay." I felt a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and disbelief. It was like the ground beneath me had disappeared, and I was falling into an abyss I couldn't escape. I stormed out of the room and locked myself in the bathroom, sobbing uncontrollably. I couldn't believe that my marriage, my family had come to this. And all for what? A fling with the nanny, someone I trusted to care for my child. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I had ever felt before. After that moment in the bedroom, everything changed. I felt like my world had been ripped apart, and nothing made sense anymore. I couldn't sleep that night, or the nights that followed. Every time I closed my eyes, I replayed the scene in my head, the way they froze when I walked in, the messages on his phone, the look on her face when she couldn't even meet my eyes. The worst part was the silence that followed. He tried to explain himself, but what could he say? That it was a mistake? That he didn't mean to hurt me? None of it mattered. The damage was done. I felt like I couldn't breathe, like my chest was being crushed under the weight of it all. I had to confront the nanny the next morning. I told her to pack her things and leave immediately. She didn't argue or try to explain herself. She just packed up her stuff in tears and walked out. Watching her leave should have felt like a small victory, but it didn't. It just made everything feel emptier. Then there was my daughter. She kept asking where the nanny went, why Daddy and I weren't eating dinner together anymore, why Mommy was crying all the time. How do you explain something like this to a child? How do you protect them from the pain when you can barely hold yourself together? I started to withdraw from everything. Friends, family, even work. I'd go through the motions, but I wasn't really there. My coworkers noticed, but I couldn't bring myself to tell them what happened. The shame was overwhelming. I felt like everyone would judge me, like they'd wonder how I didn't see it coming. I spent so many nights replaying every moment in my head, wondering what I missed. Were there signs all along that I ignored? Was I not enough for him? Was there something I could have done differently? These questions consumed me. I tried to talk to him once, to understand why he did it. His response made me feel even worse. He said he didn't know why, that it just happened. Just happened? Like it was some accident he couldn't control? Those words echoed in my head for weeks, haunting me every time I tried to make sense of it all. And the anger, it consumed me. I'd go from crying in the bathroom to screaming into a pillow, feeling this rage I didn't know what to do with. I was angry at him for betraying me, at her for taking advantage of the trust I gave her, and at myself for letting it all happen. My mental health hit rock bottom. I started missing deadlines at work, and my boss pulled me aside one day to ask if everything was okay. I wanted to tell her everything, to unload the weight I was carrying, but I just nodded and said I was fine. How do you explain this kind of pain to someone? The betrayal didn't just affect me. It rippled through every part of my life. My family started noticing the cracks, and when I finally told my mom, she kept saying, "You don't deserve this." But even hearing that didn't help, because deep down, I felt like I did. I felt like I'd failed as a wife, as a mother, as everything. And yet, through all the pain, there were small moments of clarity, like the time I looked in the mirror and realized I didn't recognize the person staring back at me, or the moment my daughter hugged me and said, "I love you, Mommy," and I realized I couldn't let this break me. I still had her. She still needed me. But moving on felt impossible. Every corner of the house reminded me of what happened, every memory tainted by the betrayal. The kitchen table where we used to eat as a family, the couch where they sat too close, the bedroom where I found them. Everything felt wrong, like a part of me had died and left a hollow shell behind. As time has gone on, I've realized that everyone reacts differently to betrayal. But I've also come to understand that the way we cope with it can shape our future in profound ways. When my world shattered, when I learned about the affair between him and my own mother, I wasn't sure how I'd ever pick up the pieces. But now, looking back, I know that the strength to heal was inside me all along. I just needed to trust myself enough to find it. But I'm not the only one who has faced something like this. What about you? Have you ever experienced a betrayal that left you questioning everything you thought you knew? It's not an easy thing to go through, and it's a struggle I know many people face in silence. How do we rebuild after our trust has been shattered? Do we forgive, or do we walk away forever? I'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you do if you found out that the person you loved, the one you thought you could count on above anyone else, betrayed you with someone you trusted just as much? Could you ever forgive them? Or would the wound be too deep to ever heal? Please, share your thoughts in the comments below. This isn't just my story. It's something so many of us can relate to. And I want to know how you would have handled it. Would you have confronted them the way I did? Or would you have taken a different path? Sometimes, when we face these kinds of situations, we feel like we're alone, like no one could possibly understand the depths of our pain. But what I've learned is that we're not alone. There's a whole community of people who've gone through similar struggles, and by sharing our stories, we can support each other and learn from each other's experiences. So, what do you think? Was I right to walk away? Or was there another way I could have handled the situation? Let me know your thoughts, because your perspective could help someone who's going through something similar right now. And if this story has shocked you, if it made you feel something, anything, hit that like button and subscribe for more jaw-dropping tales. I've got more stories coming your way, ones that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about love, trust, and betrayal. But remember, it's not just about the story. It's about the conversation. Your opinions matter, and they help all of us grow. So join the discussion, share your thoughts, and let's keep this conversation going. After all, we all deserve to be heard, and together, we can find a way to heal. So, again, what would you have done in my situation? Would you have stayed and tried to work it out, or would you have walked away? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more of these raw, real stories. You never know. Your story might be the one that helps someone else find their own strength.